Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to Books and Books. We're glad you could make it. Before we get started, I would like to ask you to silence your cell phones, please, and thank you. For some of you, it'll be your first time here. I just want you to know that Books and Books has a lot of great programming, both in-store and off-site. We've recently had Ariana Huffington, Dave Barry, a lot of great local authors. We have upcoming events with Timothy Geithner and Garrison Keillor. So a lot of good stuff. Please get a calendar on your way out or check out our website. We also have music in the courtyard on the weekend, so it's just a fun place to come. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Justin Moss. He's Director of Broward Operations and Outreach, an opera aficionado, and the guiding light of the Florida Grand Opera. Please help me welcome him. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. It's a real pleasure to be here. A little daunting to follow that list of star celebrities that she ticked off there. Let's see if we can come up to snuff, though, for you. We have a wonderful program today. I'm Justin Moss. I'd like to introduce Susan Danis, the new General Director of Florida Grand Opera. A tremendous inspiration to all of us as the opera finds a new artistic vision, and we've been doing great work this season that all of us are so proud of. If you haven't gotten there, get. And I'll tell you about that in just a moment. This is the 73rd season of Florida Grand Opera. We've produced opera here in South Florida every year consecutively for 73 years. The young artist, thank you, yeah. The company is even older than I am, and I find fewer and fewer things that are these days. The Young Artist Studio is now in about its 35th year, and this is one of the premier training programs for young opera singers in the whole of the country. Gifted people apply every year, maybe 800 of them. We can choose 8 or 10. So the competition is hugely stiff, but it provides the kind of experience that these young singers need in order to walk over a bridge between the conservatory experience and their academic training and having a professional career. We are so proud of these artists. They work harder than you can ever believe. More hours every day. They're out doing more programs than you could even imagine possible for them. But nobody ever got to be a good singer by thinking about it or reading about it, maybe even a lot. You only get to be a great singer by singing as much as you can. And we provide that opportunity with lots of coaching and lots of support. So we're delighted to be here, and this is like the rescue mission. You've got to hear the sermon before you get fed. We have a special offer for you today for tickets to our final production of the season, Jules Massenet's Thais, a phenomenal and tragically underserved opera. 20% off any tickets for the first 2 performances. If you're already set with your own tickets, I know you have a friend who isn't. Take one of these, pass it on. They're both here at this table and the table outside. But if you haven't been to the opera for a long time, one more production this season. We had our last Tosca performance last night. Massenet's Thais is a phenomenal work. We were hoping we could do some music from it today for you, but there's a rehearsal going on right now, and every young artist who does Thais music is there. The schedule is a real killer, and sometimes you're just a victim of it. But we're going to begin our program by introducing the accompanist who is going to play for all of the artists, Alexandra Nomenko. And thank you, Sas. We're doing some Russian music, so we're glad to have her as an asset today. She is from Moscow. Her father actually is a singer with the Bolshoi Opera. And so she has a long musical tradition in her family. We're delighted to have her, and we'll be talking to her about a little bit of Tchaikovsky a little later on. We're going to begin with a piece by Mozart, though. And I would like the singers who are going to perform this charming duet, Rebecca Henriquez and Rayanne Bryce Davis, to come out. This is from Mozart's oft maligned and ill-understood opera Così fan tutte, the third of his collaborations with the great librettist Lorenzo da Ponte. This is actually a phenomenal piece, hugely ambivalent as to exactly what's going on, and is it a good thing that's happening, or ultimately is it a bad thing? And the jury's still out, I think, decisively on that solution. But the opera opens with a charming duet with two sisters performing it. Their names are Fiordaligi and Dorabella. Fiordaligi is the soprano, Dorabella, a mezzo-soprano. And they have boyfriends whom they desperately love, and they're looking at little pictures. In Mozart's time, there were little miniature portraits that women wore on lockets around their neck. We've advanced a great deal, as you will see from that shortly. And the girls, anyway, are looking at these portraits of their young men. And guarda, sorella, look, sister, one says, holding the picture up for her to look at, how handsome he is. And they get into basically a little tiff over whose boyfriend is hotter. But it's a charming piece of music. Tell us about learning this, because I think there's nothing in the world like the duets and the ensembles that Mozart composed. That ensemble singing must be such a thrill when you guys are doing those really tricky runs and staying so immaculately together. Was it hard to learn?
It's a lot of togetherness, a lot of practicing. We have to work together. We have to listen to each other a lot, hopefully, and then we hope that it comes out right.
I have to tell you, I've heard you do this several times, and you've not disappointed me yet. Knock on that wood. And that's a charming, charming duet. Guarda, sorella from Mozart's Così fan tutte. Let's go ahead and do it. Brava. Brava. Our next selection will feature soprano Betsy Diaz. Betsy, come and join us if you would. Betsy, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've pretty much grown up here in Miami, haven't you?
Yes, born and raised, for the most part. Yeah.
And we think that's pretty exciting. There was a time when I came here 20 years ago, and we didn't find the strength among the local musicians and artists that we were hoping for. We always had to go outside to recruit members of our Young Artist Studio. But we are thrilled when we find homegrown talent so good they're competitive with the 600 or 800 people from across the country who've applied for the program. You're going to sing something pretty special for us today.
Yes.
From Pietro Mascagni's opera Cavalleria Rusticana, Rustic Chivalry. Now, Betsy, when I was learning opera, when all this material was a lot newer than it is today, I was told that the three toughest roles for a soprano in the whole soprano repertory were Bellini's Norma, Ponchielli's La Gioconda, and Mascagni's Cavalleria Rusticana. Why are these roles so tough? What is it that makes them so tough?
Probably I mean, I would assume the orchestration, having to sing, big enough or well-rounded enough to be able to be heard over the large number of...
You're competing with sometimes 70 musicians playing as loudly as they can. And it's the rare animal who can make enough sound to project over that curtain of sound the orchestra is producing and make a physical impact with the audience. A lot of people can do it for 3 minutes. But a whole opera of that stuff, it's a huge, huge challenge, and it really narrows the field of the people. This is an opera sung by a character whose name is Santuzza. Tell us what kind of trouble she's in.
Well, her husband is being unfaithful.
It's actually her fiancé.
Her fiancé.
Not
her
married
fiancé.
yet.
Excuse me.
But they're
Her
going
fiancé.
through all the motions.
Yeah.
We
And
think she may be pregnant, in fact.
a lot of times it is played that way, which makes it even worse for her because in these times, if you were, to be with someone and be pregnant and they leave you, you're just scorned. You're shunned from where you live. And this is the situation she's in. And in this aria, she's actually going to his mother as a last plea to help me out.
I'm in trouble.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear it. Voi lo sapete. Brava. And instead of shattering a water glass, Betsy has knocked the book off the shelf. So I'll just pick that up and put that back. The next piece of music comes from Charles Gounod's wonderful opera, Romeo et Juliet, based on Shakespeare's play. Rebecca, come back if you would. This is a great aria that you're about to sing for us, but curiously, there are a whole lot of people who've seen this opera before and have never heard it.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's really hard.
And it's cut. It's
And
cut.
it's cut, yeah.
They just cut it because sopranos go, you know something? If I sing that, I'm done for the night. I'll never finish this opera. So they just cut it. And it's the rare performance. Today, people are demanding more and more that, you know, if you're going to sing this role, for the love of God, sing that aria. It's some of the most beautiful music in the whole of the show. This is the great scene where Giulietto has gotten this potion. It's known as the poison aria. It's more a potion. It's going to make it look like she's dead. But she's going to come out of this and be rejoined with Romeo. But she's just been passed this stuff, and like, what guarantee does she have that that's what's going to really happen? Is this going to kill her? But she finally, in the course of this aria, screws up her courage and gets all the strength she needs together to do this, and finally, à toi, Romeo, and takes it down. And it's a wonderful scene of this desperate kid trying to screw up the courage to do something that may cost her her life, but seems to be, at the end, the only chance she has of being reconciled with Romeo. Juliet, Rebecca Enriquez. Brava! Why would anyone think that was hard to sing? Our next piece will feature the soprano Jovanka Jean-Baptiste. Jovanka, please come and join us. Jovanka covered the role of Abigail in our production of Nabucco earlier this season, meaning she was ready to go on if we had an emergency and lost a soprano who needed to perform. She did, however, sing 3 of our performances of Tosca in the production that we just concluded. Had a huge success with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's adult music. And you rarely can take a young artist and put them into a role like that. But she really made us all extremely proud. She's going to sing for us an aria from Verdi's opera Nabucco, or Nebuchadnezzar. This is the opera that made Verdi famous. He was a young man in his 20s. This opera was written nearly half a century before Falstaff and Othello, which is staggering to appreciate, really. But this is the opera that did it for him. In this aria, you can hear foreshadowing of Leonora's arias from Il Trovatore, from that rich middle period of his career that included Trovatore, Traviata, and Rigoletto. You hear it in this magnificent aria. Tell us about Abigail and what's going on here. We've seen her in the first act of the opera, in the first scene, and she's sort of mean-spirited. She's in an unenviable position of loving the same man her sister has sort of run off with, and she's cross. But this is a completely different side of her we haven't experienced.
I think it's indicative of early Verdi, where you think the characters are one note, one level, but then you get to the next act and it's, oh, there's a different side. I mean, Abigail is in I think the worst position in life. She's the daughter of Nabucco, but turns out she's really not. She's not biologically his. Her sister is the golden child, the favorite, and she's kind of grown up knowing that her father loved her just a bit less than her sister, but she wanted to be the strong older sister, the strong heir to the throne. And so in Act 1, you know, she is kind of mean-spirited and cross, but for good reason. She comes in Act 1 thinking she's saving her sister, and it's her sister is in the arms of the man she loves, and it's, well, I mean, any woman here can tell you're going to be a little upset. So when we get to Act 2, she's conflicted. She's just found out that she's not Nabucco's daughter, so confirming her worst fears. And what do? I've now lost my father. I've lost the man I love to my sister. I don't know who I am. I don't know who my identity is. My father was a slave. My mother was put to death simply because I exist. And I mean, any human being would struggle with that kind of, those kind of, revelations. And so this aria is really showing she's human. A lot of people think of her as a villainess, but she's really not. She's somebody in a bad position who makes her decisions based on the position that she's in.
This aria occurs right at the top of this scene. She's caught a glimpse of her sister quickly together with the man that they both love, and it's broken her heart. And she's left alone, and she sings this aria that begins with the words, Anch'io dischiusa. I also once opened my heart to love, and I felt the emotions of other people, and she goes on to describe how incredible it was to really feel all of that stuff. But she's had to close it off as life has progressed, and she sings with that broken heart, who can ever give me back the happiness that I knew? Anch'io from Nabucco. Now, we're risking leaving you with the impression that opera is nothing but a parade of unhappy women passing before you. And that's not exactly true. The two sisters from Cozy who started the program aren't unhappy yet. It's the first musical number in the show, of course. The next piece, though, features Rayanne Bryce Davis, a mezzo-soprano, who will be singing the aria of the Principessa, the princess, from Chile's opera Adriana Lecouvier. And this is a charmer who poisons her rival with violets that are poisoned, that takes her out, kills her. And at any rate, this is a moment of unhappiness in her life. It's 11 o'clock at night. She's waiting for this man who she loves, and she's having to share with a rival. She's waiting for him to arrive. And this is a great aria that works through all of the angst a woman whose heart is full of love experiences as you wait for the guy who never shows up. Eventually he does, but she begins to pretty much lose faith, I think, before she finishes this aria. Every sound she hears, the river outside, she's certain is his steps as he's approaching. All of it fails her, and she just grows more and more desperate. Tell us about learning this role.
Well, this was always one of my favorite arias. But as a kind of a baby dramatic mezzo, I'm not allowed to sing all of the wonderful things that I'm going to sing in like 10 years. So I was very excited when my voice teacher said last year, he's like, okay, just go on and learn a certa voluta. I was like, really? Like, seriously? So I was extremely excited. So basically, this is my chance to get up and roar, which I'm excited about.
And that's fun. Teachers will do that. They will try to protect their students. It's way too early for you to be doing that stuff. The role we just heard Jovanka singing, Abigail from Nabucco, is a famous career ender. Many women think, I'm ready for that, and by the time they find out they're not, it's too late, and they're done. But that's right, that you get protected, but it's fun when you get to jump in the deep end and really essay this. This is a delicious role. In this opera, Adrienne Lecouvier, the other role is a soprano and a very famous actress to boot. But a really good mezzo can walk away with that show, and it's always a big risk for the sopranos. They watch them like hawks as they're rehearsing and going through it.
Oh
Now let's have a relief from these unhappy women. Thomas Lehman, come out here if you would. Come up here with him. Yeah, we're just going to make use of having a real Russian speaker with us here. First of all, I believe this aria you're going to sing from Tchaikovsky's opera, The Queen of Spades, is known by the Russian words for I love you. Davero? Pravda?
Правда. Yes, that's true.
Speak for us those words.
Я вас люблю.
You should all learn this because life is full of surprises. You never know when it might come in handy. This is a story about a very old woman who happens to have come upon the secret for winning at cards every time. And the advantage of knowing this secret has not gone unnoticed by those who watch her play at the tables night after night. And there's a long line of people who'd like to relieve her of the burden of that secret so they themselves could start winning at every hand of cards. Tell us about this aria and sort of what the prince is singing about. Tom.
Sure. So, while that is the a main part of the plot, the prince himself is engaged to Lisa, who is a wonderful woman who happens to in fact be in love with someone else, which is really unbeknownst to the Prince Yeletsky.
And which makes you an unhappy man, sadly. I'm sorry.
Yeah, by the end, I mean, it doesn't end well. It does not end well by the end of the show. But at this point, he's trying to reassure her of his love, and he says to her, if you love someone else, if someone else is better for you than I am happy to take a back seat. But, she doesn't take care of it that way, and things really do go sour from this point on in the opera. But this is a really lovely and really positive affirmation of his love for her.
We have done too little Russian music here at Florida Grand Opera. We did one production of Eugene Onegin about 16 years ago, I think, 14. And it was fabulous, and people loved it, and we should do more. Tchaikovsky, tell us about Tchaikovsky's place in the hearts of Russian opera goers. I mean, this is like your steady diet of music, isn't it?
Exactly. Tchaikovsky has very special place in our hearts because the music is so beautiful and so deep and so tender and so passionate. Which really displays the definition of Russian soul, which you all might know. So Tchaikovsky is a very special composer, and I wish Florida Grand would keep in mind it for next season.
And do more, and we should.
Yeah, please do.
And I have to tell you guys something, because you're too young to know this, but when I was growing up and learning music, it was sort of thought beneath anyone's dignity to pay serious attention to Tchaikovsky. I'm not making that up. He'd gone completely out of favor. And I was telling a donor of the opera, Curtis Rice, who's gone now, but I think he would be 100 if he were alive today. And I was telling him about having rediscovered Tchaikovsky and going, what was wrong? Everyone used to tell me, oh, don't listen to that rubbish. I love it. And I'm learning it and just finding it so rewarding. And he said, when I was growing up, people talked the same way about Verdi. You were considered, if you listened to that pa stuff, what was wrong with you? And he said, so, things will come back into fashion, but it is some of the loveliest music. And let's hear this aria of Prince Yeletsky's. A couple of seasons ago, Florida Grand Opera presented its first zarzuela, Moreno Torroba's Luisa Fernanda. And it was a big success. People really loved it. And it was a new experience for us. None of us really had any experience with this art form, which is a traditionally Spanish form of musical theater. Every Spanish-speaking culture in the world, from the Philippines to Havana, has their own tradition of zarzuela. This is a Spanish one. Luisa Fernanda, and we'll have, again, Thomas Lehman and Ray Ann Bryce Davis perform this duet. Now, although you don't really look it in this duet, you're a bit older than Louisa, aren't you?
I'm supposed to be, yes I am.
Yes, you are. And in fact, she's in love with a younger man.
The plight of a baritone.
You've got a lot more money than the tenor.
Right, and that's my selling point.
And you try to push that, and say, I would really be a better match for you, my dear. And she's not having it, is she?
No, not at this point. She's really not interested. And that's my sole goal is he's visiting Madrid. He's looking for a wife. I mean, so he's hitting on anything left and right. And she happens to be the real, apple of his eye.
And it's hard for him, too, because he knows he's done the right thing. He's built a property portfolio.
Yeah.
He's well off. He's deeply respected back home. And here he can't even get her attention. And it's a real piece of frustration for him. But it's a great duet, so let's hear it.
En mi tierra extremeña tengo un nido de amores, encinas, guitarras y castaños y robles, donde el pájaro quiere que una pájara venga para ser soberana de mi casa la briega. Oh, señorita, no soy ladrón de amores, ni pillo con tristeza la suerte de otros hombres. Pues que la quiero con un querer tan hondo. También yo le querría si no quisiera una esperanza me alumbra al fin. Yo vendré. Mondo las de mis montes, relicario de mis sueños, de la feria de tu Kio, te he traído la de dentro, como pide la personas. Decorales y eternas, no visito que tu gloria. Sean esos blancos terra quando tienen, no pierden la esperanza de triunfar. Mondata de mis montes, amapola de mis trigos, relicario de mis sueños, manantial de mi cariño. No se duelen mis amores, que les importe los tratas, al río de Despedes, en un puente, esperanzas.
Thank you for being here. We really loved singing for you today and hope we'll see you at Thais. Remember, take a flyer for your 20% discount. Give it to your friends. Thank you all very much.
And I would also like to thank Justin and the entire opera.
Thank you, Mitchell. Thank you.
And I would also like to say that the best way we can do this again